Welcome to Imperfectly Human, the podcast where we get real about mental health, messy growth, and being human one day at a time. I'm your host, Rachel, and together we're navigating life's chaos with honesty, compassion, and a little humor. Let's get into it. Hello, friends, and welcome. I am your host, Rachel, and today I have another fabulous Rachel here, and I'm so excited that you've come. And even before this, we spoke briefly on the phone, and it was like we kind of connected, and we didn't even really, right?
Yep.
So for my viewers, listeners, I have a fabulous woman, Rachel Sobel, and I can't even go into telling all the great things about you because I was reading your bio. Like, you've done a shit ton.
Yeah, I'm pretty busy.
I love it, though.
Busy. I'm wired like that, though. Like, I am the person that puts too much on their plate and makes myself physically and mentally exhausted, but I don't know how else to operate.
So it's interesting because I'm kind of like that, too, like type A, but I don't think I get shit done like that.
I get shit done mostly because of science, because I was diagnosed as an adult with ADHD, which explains a lot of my behavior and all of that. And now I'm medicated for it. And so now I can get in the zone and get more done before 9 o'clock in the morning than most people do a whole day.
Yeah. I think I need to go back on my medication because I'm the same.
Medication's amazing.
I know. I just didn't like the crash at the end. I'm going to be honest. I struggle with that.
I don't have that, but it's, there's a lot of stigma around all mental health things, but especially medication, and it breaks my heart because it's a tool that is there to help you.
Absolutely. I'm definitely for medication. I don't want my listeners to think that I'm anti-medication. I'm not.
Right.
I just struggled with but I do notice since I've not been taking it for a couple of months, I am
see a difference.
Oh, much. Like my connections don't continue. I have a lot of things on my plate. And I do get a lot of stuff done, but it's at morning time also. Like I have this window of hours, and then I'm like, okay. And then before I know it, I'm like, oh, shit, 3 hours has passed. What did I get done?
I know. Well, sometimes you fall into those rabbit holes of jumping around and doing different things, don't complete anything. But I feel like I'm in a good groove. But yeah, I admittedly have way too much on my plate.
Right.
Like I know I do.
But have you always been like that? Because I know we're going to talk about, so even as a child, young child, everything, you've always been like a doer, put a shit ton on your plate.
Cheerleading, summer camp,
Right.
Volunteering for everything, student government, like whatever it was, yes.
Right.
I was a joiner always.
Right. So on top of all these fabulous things, because you've written a book, you're writing a solo book that's coming out soon, you've put out a bunch of articles, you were nominated for, I definitely saw something about Mom
2.0. I won the People's Choice Award.
Right.
Which was, that was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. It was very early
in
my
validating.
career. And it was during COVID, so it wasn't at the conference. So we sat at my dining room table, me, my husband, and my kids, with the laptop open when they announced it. And it was so surreal, but it was so special just to be with my family in that intimate setting, even though it would have been nice to be at the conference. That, and I had a couple nominations for Parenting Blogger of the Year for South Florida Bloggers. I just was nominated for from the Miami Diaper Bank for the Nurturing Futures Award for Child Welfare.
My gosh.
So
And you were on the Kelly Clarkson show. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I did Kelly Clarkson and Tamron Hall in the same year, and it was really cool. Like, those were very cool opportunities.
No, that's not just cool. That is you have landed.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as everyone thinks. Like, you do all these things, and visually it's amazing, but none of it happens without the blood, sweat, and tears in the back end. And so it's you think about all these people who you watch them on Instagram and they have all these incredible accolades, and it is amazing and it's all deserved, but I don't think people understand the amount of power it takes mentally and physically to get to those places.
Right.
It's not luck.
No, for sure.
So,
I think that I don't think that it was I think that it's just all your hard work that has led to that, but that's
it's surreal.
It's like that Academy Award trophy that you don't,
I know. Every time something happens, I'm like, what do I do now? Like, where do I go from here? But the book has always been my end goal. It's been my dream, and that's another thing. I don't think people understand that if you go the traditional publishing route, because anyone can self-publish, and a lot of my friends have done it, and it's amazing. I personally just didn't want to do that because just in my mind, psychologically, I wanted that book deal. I wanted a contract. That was something that I really was fighting for. And I was raised by a Jersey-born, feisty woman who taught me not to take no for an answer. And so, you know, the persistence and all that stuff, I kept at it. And it's been like 5 years, like working with 2 different agents. My agent now is unbelievable and never gave up on me, totally believed in me. And all it took was breast cancer.
So let's go there, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think we were talking about that before we started this, and we started this a little later because we were just like, we could talk all day.
All day.
Right? And so what led you, because I know we talked about like your past and domestic violence, and can we touch upon a little bit of that? Because I think that's so important, especially for the listeners, because again, why did I start this podcast is to, if it can help one person know that they're not alone or what they could do differently to help themselves get out of it, whatever it is, but also that it's not them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then I've done my job to a certain degree, right? So let's talk a little bit about what did that look like, and what was that about, where, when?
So a much younger Rachel with like no frontal lobe, which I strongly believe nobody should get married until they have a frontal lobe.
Right, which is probably around
26?
27, 20.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
A much younger Rachel. I was in just a very high control, abusive relationship. And it didn't start that way. It's, you know, the slow burn everyone talks about. And I think that's why it's so hard for people in those situations to leave, because for me, I can't speak for other survivors, but when I started therapy again, like several years ago, and I was telling my therapist about this relationship and everything, she was like, so you're a domestic violence survivor? And I was like, no, I'm not. And she's like, Rachel, you are. And I go, no, it wasn't like an everyday thing. And I didn't have bruises all over me. And she was like, I'm going to need you to say it out loud.
Right.
And say that you are. And that was like very eye-opening for me, because I never looked at myself like that. And I'm not afraid of labels. I'm not afraid of any of that. I genuinely did not feel that I belonged in that category. And I actually felt guilt using that label, because there are so many women who dealt with far worse. And then I realized, what am I doing comparing violence? Like, that is
100%.
so messed up.
And I think that's the society, though.
Yes.
I think that we live in a society, because I mean, I work with people who I'm like, can we talk about domestic violence and what that looks like?
And it's different too for everyone. Like
100%.
My abuse did not start as physical abuse.
Right.
It started with like humiliation and just making me feel, taking the wind out of my sails and making me feel like I was not good enough for anything, and constantly criticizing. And I didn't walk on the sidewalk correctly, and the way I said my S's was annoying, and I breathed too many times before I fell asleep at night. Like, such crazy things that put me in, I was always in fight or flight.
Right.
Always. And then, you know, a little bit deeper in, then the physical stuff started. And it was not every day or regular, but it was a few times too many.
Right.
One time is too
One
many.
too many, I was going to say that, right?
And then there was the verbal abuse, and then there was sexual abuse, because, you know, it was so complicated. And I think that, I don't think I was ever in denial. I just think I really didn't think it applied to me, and this was just the life that I chose, and I was stuck. I didn't know how to get out.
But I think that piece,
Yeah.
I think that piece is hard, because I think many women probably are thinking the same thing. Like, you know, like, if I acknowledge this, then I have to make a choice.
Right.
Then I have to make a decision, right? Either they get help, I get help, we separate, I leave, and it's hard. So if I acknowledge it, then I have to make a decision.
Yes.
But a decision could also be to choose to stay.
100%. And you know what? Like, everyone has a different journey with everything. Health stuff, domestic violence, mental health, whatever. I think that the worst thing you can do is either shame someone for not leaving, or ask them why they're not leaving.
100%.
Because it's much more complicated than you think. Like, depending if you're in a relationship or you're married or you're whatever, you know, the situation is, like, there's a lot of things that go along with that you're going to basically blow up your world, right? And so you start to think, well, is it worth it, or can I just put up with this?
100%.
And that is so fucked up to say, but it's honest.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I didn't tell anyone. Nobody knew.
Right.
Because I, in a very sick way, was also protecting him.
Of course.
Because I was so ashamed and so embarrassed. I didn't want people to know that I was putting up with any of this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Everyone always says like, well, when did you get out? There's no magic answer. I got out one day when I reached my limit and I couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
So it's a very slippery slope because I get being on the other side because I've had friends, unfortunately, deal with similar situations. It's very hard to be compassionate and understanding to someone when they're telling you that someone is hurting them.
Yeah.
Right? Like you want to shake your friend
100%.
and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
You are better than this. But it's hard to do that. And you have to kind of like take a step back and just be there and meet them where they are and just say things like, if you ever want to go to the police, I will go with you.
Yeah.
If you ever want to come and sleep at my house because you don't feel safe, I will come with you. If you ever want me to come over,
100%.
you just have to be supportive. That is the best thing that you can do if someone ever opens up to you.
Yeah.
Once I did open up about it, the crazy part is that people weren't surprised.
Right.
And that was very shocking to me because I was like, oh my God, maybe people saw things I didn't see.
Yeah.
So, it was a complicated road. I'm lucky that I got out because I truly think I would not have lived. And that's a heavy thing to say. And I'm not saying it to be dramatic. I'm saying it because I need women to understand that, number one, you're never alone. There's always someone dealing with what you're dealing with or worse or lighter. Like no one's on the same path. But nobody should ever treat you poorly, whether it's verbal abuse or emotional abuse and physical abuse. Anyone putting their hands on you is a hard stop.
Yep.
So one of the things that, and maybe I give a trigger warning in case anyone is listening.
Yeah,
but
that's a great idea, right? So for my listeners, if you're listening, watching, just know that this could be very difficult for you to hear. So if you want to hear it, great. Maybe if it's triggering, choose to listen to this episode with somebody, or just be very mindful and have a safe person.
And if you are someone who relates to this trigger warning, I see you, and I'm very, very, I'm in your corner, and you have people rooting for you. But
for that reminder.
My physical abuse was, it started with a slap, and then it was a push, and then it was all the things, the after school special things. The thing that still haunts me to this day, I don't lose sleep over it, but when I think about it, I literally get chills, was strangulation. And I, not until recently, probably about in the last 5 years, I read a stat, and I'm going to mess it up a little bit, but it's going to be close enough.
Yeah.
You can fact check it. Men who strangle romantic partners are 700 and something % more likely to kill them.
Oh, wow.
And that is a sobering thought. But if you think about it, I'm not going to say it's easy for someone to slap or hit because it's disgusting, all of it. But you could see how someone can get heated and they lose their cool and their hands go flying. To physically strangle someone, that is intent.
Yeah.
That is like, I want to hurt this person and possibly kill them.
Yeah.
And what if they snap and lose control and they do it by accident? Like that is such a purposeful motion.
Yeah.
And when I think about it, I think about my daughters and I think about how I arm them for the future because you do get indoctrinated sometimes, and you don't know it. I didn't know it. I'm 49 years old and it wasn't until the last few years that I said it out loud.
Right.
And so now I won't shut up about it and I'll never talk about my abuser, but I will talk about being abused as much as I can if it helps someone to say, oh my God, that's what I'm going through.
But I also think it takes away the shame that you might have felt towards yourself.
Oh,
because many people, and I'm not just saying women, but I think that the assumption is that most women are abused, which is probably, I don't know the stats. So but
it's higher for women for sure.
I'm sure. But I think that a lot of people don't recognize that the victims are the ones that typically carry the shame. And they're the ones who are typically quiet and protecting their abuser. And the reality is that if you could just tell one person, and I tell this to my clients, I'm here as a therapist, as your performance coach, I am here, especially when I work with people who in the performance coaching piece, because it is not that realm of therapy, but I still treat it as like HIPAA compliance, I'm bound by my regulations, yada, yada, yada. However, I'm here, I'm getting a sense that there's something that there's being held back, and if and when you're ever ready, just know I'm here, open arms, open ears, no judgment.
That's it.
And that's the part, is that the more you talk about it and the more people can say it, even though it's scary, that eliminates a lot of the shame that you feel.
100%. I think that you hit the nail on the head. There is a ton of shame. There's embarrassment. There's confusion because you're like, wait, I'm a strong person. Like, what is going on? But when I can't speak for something that happens right away, but as being indoctrinated into that whole dynamic, you don't know what's up or down anymore. You start to feel like you're going crazy because you're like, oh my God, did I deserve that? Of course you didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. But you're in such a fucked up place
100%.
because you're not leaving.
Yep.
And you're still like having dinner with this person who like days ago, you know what I mean? It's such a mind fuck.
100%.
And so, but I will agree with you that when I did say it, when my therapist was like, you need to say it and you need to own it because that is part of your story and there's nothing wrong with that. When I said it, and like let that out, as cheesy as it sounds, it was really empowering.
I'm sure.
Because it was a piece of my life that I really thought I'd healed from. But how can you heal from something that you don't acknowledge?
100%, you can.
So I just, my hope is that other women, anyone listening who feels like they're in a similar situation, it is not you. It is not, and you don't deserve it. And yes, it's really hard sometimes to end a relationship, but it's also nice to be alive and well and not have someone treating you like that.
100%.
And it's hard to ever look at someone the same when they do things like that. So
yeah. And I think it's really important because domestic violence isn't really spoken about a lot as much as it should be.
Well, we're afraid. People are afraid.
I mean, I can go back to one time that I was in college. I met this guy and it was from the beginning a very intense relationship. And I remember like it was aligned with a lot of the things I was already doing in my life, like my working out, my disordered eating was great around there because they were, a bodybuilder, personal trainer, right? But my friends would start to say, he's telling you that you shouldn't be eating this or you shouldn't be eating that. And I'm like, oh, but he's just looking out for me because he knows that I don't want to
Right, you justify it.
100%. But it was when he threatened to break my arm when I was touching one of his trophies, I realized he's not joking. Rachel, you've got to end this. And I was fortunate. I was very fortunate that he had not laid a hand on me. But a threat of violence is still something that...
It's still you don't want... Why take the chance?
No, 100%.
Why take the chance? And, I have several defining moments in my life when I think about that period of my life of little things that just kind of are burned into my memory that some are good, some are bad, whatever. But I will never forget. I remember after the very first physical altercation, not altercation, I wasn't physical, but
assault. The
physical assault, I remember being in such disbelief and saying to him, I can't believe you just did that. I was so shocked. I can't believe you just put your hands on me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I expected him to say, but his response, and I will never forget it, was, oh, please, do you know how many people that I know hit their girlfriends?
Oh, my God.
And I was like, where do I, like...
Right.
He
What do you
doesn't
do
even
with
think
that?
it's wrong. In his mind, it's okay. So is this going to be my life?
Right.
And I think you have to take stock of everything around you. And it's like nothing is worth staying in a relationship like that.
100%.
Nothing is worth that at all. And I think that as women, we, like you said, we have to talk about it more because there's power in numbers.
Yeah.
And there's relatability and there's getting comfortable with uncomfortable things.
Absolutely.
And none of that changes until we are brave enough to talk about it.
Right. And I think it's also important for the listeners, and if anybody is listening to this and is in a situation, your partner, right? We don't. We're not saying, oh, go ahead and just confront them and leave them. We're not saying that.
Right.
What we are saying is get support. There are plenty of, shelters out there. There's domestic violence.
Start with a therapist.
100%. Start with a therapist. Yes.
They will very easily say to you, no, this is abuse. It'll clarify things for you.
Right.
It's very hard to operate in the mind space when you love someone and you think that this is a good relationship and all that stuff, and there's just this one bad thing and it's just physical and maybe it'll go away. It's a very complicated headspace to be in. And sometimes you need that unbiased person to literally look at you and be like, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but this is straight up abuse.
Right.
And
it's really hard, I think, for those people that are very dependent financially.
Yes.
Right? So what I learned from my divorce, right, was I'm never going to be dependent on a man financially again. That doesn't mean that I don't want my husband to like surprise me and take me on trips and
Right,
pay
of
for many
course.
things that he does. I'm very grateful for that. And I'm going to have my own money, you know? And I think that that's so important for women. That's not to say that I know plenty of women who have been with their husbands for 30 years and they have a beautiful relationship, and that's great. You've grown up together. But I do think there's importance to have like something of your own.
Well, my mom and my grandma, Jewish mom and grandma,
Yeah.
always used to say to me, you got to have a pishka.
Yeah,
You got to have
right?
a pishka, which is what Yiddish is so hard to translate, but basically like a secret stash,
Yeah,
right?
like just an emergency fund.
Yeah, now I can't have that because I have children who suck the life and money
Right.
out of me every day, but
I thought it was just my wallet that would get like less and less full.
no, I don't. I literally, my 17-year-old walks around. Well, now she pays for her own nails because she has a job, but she would want to get her nails done. And when we used to get our nails done, it was like $20, right? It's like
Now it's like
$60.
60. I'd be like
and I was
90.
like, I
Yeah.
did my nails by myself 5 minutes before I left here. I don't get to do that anymore because
Right.
you're doing it. So, and it's fine. Those are my kids, and I would take the shirt off my back. But yeah, there's definitely no pishka or
Right.
emergency fund or anything like that because
Right.
there's no superfluous money
Of course.
floating around when you
Right.
have children.
Right. You don't have that money tree in the backyard either, huh?
No, I
know,
wish
shit.
I keep trying to find one. But
Me too.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know, or hoping that Ed
So-
McMahon or someone will knock on my door. I
Right?
don't know.
Oh dear Lord!
I just
remember
aged
Ed
myself.
McMahon. I was just gonna say, shit, I do remember.
People are gonna be
that,
like,
right,
"What?
Ed
What are you
McMahon.
talking about?"
Right. Oh my God. So now so that is a moment in your life where you probably felt completely helpless, hopeless, not empowered. To what led you to do all these things? You ultimately started to do things very like empowering. But what was it? Was it because you said you got breast cancer? When was that?
A year ago.
Just a year ago.
2 days ago was an exact year.
Oh shit! I didn't
from-
realize it was that.
Yeah,
soon.
I moved very fast.
Holy crap!
So you want to talk about like the dynamic we were talking about before
Yeah.
about constantly moving. So I was diagnosed May 1st of 2025.
Okay.
I always knew it was coming. I just knew.
Why?
I didn't carry the BRCA gene. My mom doesn't, but my mom's a survivor. And it's so much more than just BRCA. Like there's women getting it younger than we're supposed to. Like it's everywhere. And I just felt like I'd had so many scares and biopsies. Like how many times do you win the lottery?
Right.
How many times do you go in and you're like, you're safe? Like I knew my time would come. I knew it. And I know that sounds like crazy to say, but I think it was also a little bit of a coping mechanism because when it happened, I didn't freak out. I was upset and I was scared, all the things you feel, but I
Yeah.
didn't like get into the fetal position and have a pity party. I literally made an appointment the next day, went to meet with, I went to get the biopsies, all that stuff. My diagnosis was the first. I had a bilateral mastectomy with back-to-back reconstruction on May 27th.
Oh, you really are like an overachiever.
Yeah. I would not take no for an answer. I cried if I had to, and it was real. It wasn't like contrived, but
Yeah.
I was like so dead set on, I couldn't walk around mentally knowing I had cancer in my body
And not doing anything.
function.
Right,
I couldn't.
100%.
I was
I
like,
agree
how
with
am I
you.
supposed to go to Publix right now?
Right.
I have breast cancer. How am
Right.
I supposed to sit at a recital right now? I have breast cancer. So, it was a very sobering moment in my life,
Right.
but I also was grateful in a lot of weird ways. Talking about, domestic violence and just past relationships in general, my current and final husband that I'll ever be with in my life
We said that on the phone.
Yeah.
My current husband. We both
Current
said that.
and
We're
final
like, wait,
husband
like as we're having another one.
is the best. And we
Yeah.
are meant for each other.
love
And I
that
know
for
that
you.
with every fiber in my body. But it's like when I think about all these little logistical things from every relationship in my past, he's so different that like sometimes I'll say, oh, thank you so much for doing that. And he's like, why are you thanking me? Like I'm your partner. I'm so conditioned to think that I have to beg for love and appreciation and all these things that when I have someone who in the face of breast cancer literally handled everything. I did not have to talk to insurance. I did not have to, other than scheduling the appointments, I did not do a thing between him and my entire family. And then my best friend, who's like my sister, Marnie, they just like took charge.
Wow.
And all I had to do was recover. And I know that everyone's not that fortunate. So, and I haven't been in a situation
Yeah.
where I had that kind of support
Right.
from a male person in my life for a very long time. And so I think that one of the reasons I fared so well and was able to focus on getting things moving was because of him and because he
Right.
took care of a lot of the heavy lifting to take it off my plate. It's overwhelming. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Getting sick is overwhelming.
Sure. And you're young. I mean, like, that's the thing, like, right? I mean, I know I have friends that have also gone through breast cancer and they've been very fortunate. And it's like, we're young. Like, this doesn't happen to like young people like us, right?
No.
But here we are.
Here we are. And it's, that's another thing that I think that, you mentioned before, like doing things that made me feel empowered and what changed it for me and all that stuff. I think that being in a high control relationship and being censored and being told how to act and what to wear and every possible facet of your life is curated by someone else, right? I think that when I was free and it really hit me that I was free, which was not until many, many, many years later, I didn't want to shut up about anything. If I wanted to say whatever I wanted, and when my husband and I met, we got rid of all the obligatory stuff like, in texts and emails and all that stuff from the days of Match.com. We got rid of all that, like, oh, what do you do? Where are you from? Da-da-da. That by the time we met, that a week later, we had that foundation. Like, we knew all like the basic stuff.
Right.
And I said to him, what is like the most important thing to you? Don't tell me like honesty, love, sense of humor. Everyone wants those things.
Yeah.
What is something that is a deal breaker? That's something that you want. And he goes, I want to be able to be 100% myself and say whatever I want, whenever I want, without being judged and without being someone getting mad at me. And I was like, me too. Me too. And that is the relationship we have.
That's awesome.
I could say something so off the wall and he will literally look at me and laugh at me and be like, you're cute. Like it's, but I every woman needs a different type of person in her life. And, sometimes you think you have it and then life happens. Like you don't know. But I think that was a huge driver to me starting an Instagram account and oversharing and talking about things that no one would ever think I would talk about. And I think a lot of women did that. I wasn't the only one doing it. I'm not a trailblazer in that sense.
But I think I'm not much older than you. And I will tell you, I know Janine and I have talked about this. Like, I'm a great talker. Like, I could talk to anybody. You and I could sit here all day and we could talk and I would share my most intimate details. Put me in front of that fucking camera. And I know we're on here, but this is very different.
Yeah.
I like freeze. And it's interesting that I'm a mental performance coach and I work with athletes and high performers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everything I teach flies out the window when it comes to my Instagram account.
But I think that's common for a lot of us. I think that the thing is that I know you are an athlete. I danced my whole life.
Yeah.
Literally from when I was 2 years old and walking, I had a pair of ballet slippers on and a tutu and I was in a ballet class. And then I cheered and then I taught dance and I did all these things. I was very used to being in front of a crowd and I've never really met a camera I didn't like. Like not in a vain way. I am comfortable. I'm comfortable, but I think also everything I went through made me even more comfortable in my skin because I really got to know myself in a way that I did not know before. Once I started to think about all the hard truths in my life that I had not dealt with, I really got to know who I was, and I liked her a lot better.
I love
than
that
the person that put up with things that she shouldn't have put up with on every level, not just in an abusive relationship. I think that I just was a people pleaser for so long. Even though I had a strong personality, I didn't want anyone to be upset around me. I didn't want anyone to be mad. I wanted everyone to like me. Life's not like that. Everyone's not going to like me. Everyone, it's okay. I'm not for everyone, and everyone's not for me, and that is okay.
I have a t-shirt like that.
But it takes a long time, I think, and a lot of life experience to get to that point where you can accept that and not be so concerned with what everyone thinks.
Right.
I tell my daughters all the time, if they'll say, "Are you embarrassed saying that online?" And I go, "Why? What's going to happen?"
Right.
I'm not going to lose friends over it.
Well,
and I'm
I
not
think
gonna...
that generation is just they'll post and they delete. Like, I'm like, and it's interesting because I'm the opposite. Like, I've grown up. I'm the oldest of four. We spoke our minds. I speak my truth. You know where you stand with me. You know if I like you or if I don't like you. And I know that I am not for everybody, and I've always been okay with that. And so then this whole new Instagram thing comes along that I've really just started to do in the last year for my business page kind of thing. And I'm like a totally different person. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, you don't really give a shit about what people think, Rachel.
Right.
But here you do.
Yeah, but think about it. It's not like you're standing in a room talking to 100 people. You are, it's a very public forum. And if you have a public account specifically,
Which it is.
you don't have control over where that
Correct.
content goes. You don't know who's screenshotting what. You don't know who's forwarding it. You don't know who's talking about it. And you really do have to get over that insecurity. And it's not easy. And I have news for you. I don't really care what people think.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable with the community that I formed on Instagram because I've been doing it for over a decade. And the people that have stayed with me have been with me since day one. And it's like literally is a community.
I love that.
I feel comfortable airing my
That's
dirty
awesome.
laundry. And you know what? If it ends up somewhere else, it ends up somewhere else. Like, I don't care. I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't say to anyone's face. That's the thing. I think you have to stop and think before you post any piece of content, video, written word, whatever. Are you okay if this was going to be on a billboard tomorrow?
Right.
And if you're not, don't post it.
Right.
Don't.
Of course.
Because you can't, the internet, despite what our kids think, that you can make stuff disappear.
No, you
It's
can't.
always there. It's there. It's out there floating
Right.
around. And the bad guys are 10 million steps ahead of us. And if they want to
100%.
find something, they can find something. So I do think Gen X, the best generation, I think Gen X, we grew up with parents who, I mean, my house was always very open. It's not that we were not sheltered at all, ever. But there was no therapy.
Yeah.
There was no, at least in my house and most of the people I knew, that was something for the people who like really displayed obvious signs of something. But like all of us walked around with something undiagnosed, whether you were on a spectrum or had ADHD, those things were not catered to.
Right.
Your parents would say, stop crying, you're fine. You know?
Now we're like, wait, let's not invalidate our kid.
Right. So we, I think, figured out a balance. And none of us are perfect at it, but we can show compassion and be gentle with our kids. But we can also put our foot down and teach them how to be badass, strong people 100%. And kind humans. Two things can be true.
Absolutely.
You can be a badass and like have an edge to you, but you can also be kind.
Absolutely.
And that's my goal. That is my only goal with my kids is for them to be kind and sassy.
Yeah.
I don't want them to lose that feistiness.
No, they shouldn't. They don't ever want to lose their edge.
No.
And I'm never going to lose my edge.
No, never.
But you know what I think is like about the phones, right? Like we're sitting here with our phones, right? Because we've got probably kids that who knows, mine has been going off. I'm sure one's got to ask me a question about what they want, right? At the end of the day, I'm so grateful that we did not grow up with these things.
Oh my
God.
God.
I feel sad for our kids. Like when my oldest told me he was going to Barnes & Noble to buy a book, I was like, oh, I love it. Like, absolutely. Go wherever. You're buying a book because you know what? Like most of the worlds and the way they communicate are on these devices.
I think we're the last generation to feel that way. Maybe there's some like elder millennials that are close to us to feel that way, but it's interesting because that's
Janine's
a really good, what happened?
Janine's raising her hand.
Oh yeah. There's a really good, my husband had bought me a Kindle years ago and I wanted it. I asked for it because I'm like, I'll get a Kindle. I feel guilty. And it's self-imposed guilt. No one's making me feel guilty, but there's something about opening a book and flipping the pages and using a bookmark and making notes and folding. Like you can't.
I still buy.
Yeah,
I still buy hard, like soft books.
Well, also you have to buy a lot of stuff on Kindle. And to me, there was something I couldn't get past psychologically. If I'm going to pay for something, I want to feel it in my hands.
100%.
So if I'm paying for digital files that I can't share with someone, but you know, our kids are growing up very differently. And I have a lot of conversation with the parents. Obviously, I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed in any of it. I'm just a mom who shares how I feel about stuff. And I think I have a very unpopular opinion when it comes to social media and phones and all that stuff. I do have guidelines on when I think in my head when it's safe for my kids to have them. But I also think that there are a lot of parents who think that by withholding things,
100%.
they're going to keep their kids from having it. And I'm talking to you. If you don't think your kid has a TikTok account because they don't have a phone, I have news for you. It's on their friend's phone.
Right.
Okay?
100%.
And they have multiple TikTok accounts and they're private, so you can't see them and you will never find them because you can't find it if it's not their name.
Right.
They're on Snapchat. And guess what? Snapchat, everything disappears, so there's no proof.
Right.
And the kids don't screenshot on Snapchat because you get alerted when you screenshot.
Yep.
Because years ago, I remember having conversations with my older daughter about, you know, girls being mean or doing stuff on Snapchat. And I'm like, well, screenshot it so I can see it and talk to the parents or do whatever. She's like, I'm not doing that.
It says
they'll know I did it. And I'm like, oh my God. So I think that they are screwed in a lot of ways with technology. However, I strongly feel it is our responsibility not to withhold it.
100%.
To teach them how to use it responsibly.
100%.
Right? Don't let them have their phones in their room at night. I screwed that up with my first one because I didn't know what I was doing. My second one will have a very different road when she gets a phone and all of those things.
Right.
But you can't keep technology from them. That's the workforce they're going to be in. They're going to be using AI. They're going to be
100%.
using all kinds of social media. If you want them to thrive and be successful, don't like hamper them.
Yeah.
Have conversations about it.
100%.
Keep conversations about it. One of the best things I ever did with my kids with social media, phones, and in life in general is you can tell me anything.
Absolutely.
And it sounds so dumb, right?
No,
It's
I grew up with that. I grew up with that same way.
But
And my
guess
kids
what?
say,
When you do it, then you have to follow up. It can't be an empty promise. You cannot freak out or lose your mind on them when they tell you something that makes your
Exactly.
soul exit your body.
100%.
You have to talk through it, and you can tell them, I don't really like that. I don't like that you did that, but let's talk about, you know, you have to have those conversations. And I am telling you, the proof is in the pudding because I've been saying that since my kids were toddlers, and having a teenager now, I know she doesn't tell me everything. I'm not dumb.
Right.
I'm very close with my mom. I didn't
Right.
tell her everything.
Right.
She tells me enough, and she
Right.
tells me a lot,
Right.
and more than I want to know.
Right.
But I'm grateful for that, and it's because as a parent, we set the stage.
Absolutely.
And so it goes for how they communicate with you, how they communicate online. Don't put your head in the sand and say, if I don't give them a phone, it won't be a problem. Teach them how to use
Yeah.
it. Show them natural consequences of what happens. You know,
Yeah.
like it's unfortunate. There are a lot of girls,
Oh my
teenagers,
God, they
who
send those
They send
pictures.
nudes and they send all this stuff, and I have seen lives be ruined because of it.
100%.
And I've had those conversations with my daughter, saying like, "Look what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You can say I don't care, but look at this kid. Look at this kid." And like,
Yep.
not that you ever want to use someone's bad
But it's a
fortune,
lesson.
but you have to use those moments
Right.
because you have to meet them where they are
Absolutely.
and help them understand what can happen if they
Yeah.
don't do things the right way.
No, I'm all about moderation. And my kids, because when I got divorced, my kids were very young.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I was married to their dad, he was not great at answering his phone on a good day.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I wanted to speak to them, and this is when people were transitioning out of the house phone to like the cell phones
Yep.
only.
Yep.
And so being a new divorcee, my kids were 4 and 5. If I didn't hear from them or I didn't call, I started to feel panic. And then like I'd be like, okay. So they got a phone when they were very young. And at first it was like that Pantech phone that they had a tech. And it was hard because sometimes he couldn't just respond quickly enough with a tech, whatever. And so I got them an iPhone. And I remember like just being mindful of like certain things that they couldn't. Like, so when they were that age, I did put screen time on it because I'm not an idiot.
And you're allowed to. You're a parent. Like,
correct. But when they turn 15, 16, and the way they communicate with their friends is through Snapchat or Instagram or messaging, and there was always that rule, like, I need to have your phone, the code. I'm just so that if I sense something's going on, but I promise you that anything I do find out, like if there's something that I'm going to tell you, I'm going to look, but then I'm not going to hold that against you. I just want to know that you're safe.
Yep.
And it's the same thing. Like if you've ever like my oldest, like one time called my husband and I like to come pick him up because he went to a party. And you know what? I said, there will never be a question asked. So guess
No.
what? He got in my car.
no.
Nothing was asked.
But that is what a parent who is checked into their kids, in my opinion,
Yeah.
that is what they do. You have to be a safe space for them in every way.
100%.
Doesn't mean you can't get mad at them.
Of course.
Doesn't mean that like you don't lose your shit sometimes
Right.
and yell and do whatever, but you have to be their safe space
Yeah.
in every way. Like that is literally your main responsibility in my
100%.
mind. And I think that enough parents don't do it. And I think there's also a lot of parents who are like, oh, my kid would never, not my kid,
that's
not my
that
kid, not my
denial.
kid. And I'm like,
Oh dear God! It
everyone's
is your
kid.
child.
Everyone's
Right.
kid. No one's kid is not doing something wrong. You
Absolutely.
know? And
I mean,
it's all-
because we did it.
Of course we did.
The only thing is that we didn't have these phones for people to video it and put it all over
Of course we
blast.
did. I tell my daughter all the time. She's like, "You didn't drink when you were younger." I go, "Not only did I drink, I had my own $3 bottle of Boone's Farm strawberry, and we sat at someone's house in the backyard. We didn't drink and drive. We really didn't do that.
Right.
We would get all of our stuff and go and sit at someone's house and like party there all night. So yes, of course I did it. But I also had the same upbringing that I feel like I'm providing for my daughters with my mom saying,
I agree.
I don't care who you're with, what's going on. I will pick you up at 5 o'clock in the morning if it's
100%.
necessary. You always just call me.
Yep.
And when I was in college, I remember people like making fun of me because they're like, you let your mom know like when you're going out or whatever. And I go, yeah. And they're like,
Yeah.
why? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just natural. Like I don't even think about it. You know, we didn't have Life 360 and like all those things. And it was a very different time. And sometimes I think about stuff we did and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God. I'm like, thank God we didn't have the internet back then.
Right. So I just think, you know, everyone's parenting style is different, but the one thing that we should all be doing is being a safe space for our kids. That shouldn't be a question.
Right. So from what you went through as a domestic violence survivor to breast cancer survivor, you now have not only gone...
And let me tell you something, by the way.
Yeah.
The breast cancer was a breeze compared to that.
I'm sure.
Because I think what people don't realize, everyone's like, oh, this is the hardest thing you're ever going to go through. And I'm like, not really, because I cut the cancer out of my body. I could get rid of the cancer.
Right.
But all of the trauma and all of the stuff from an abusive past, that doesn't go away.
No.
It always lives in part of you, and you have triggers, and that's not something, no matter how much therapy you have, you can't erase that.
100%.
You know? So, yes.
Yeah. And then that led to your book.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that, because I really am excited about that.
I am too. So this has been my dream.
Yeah.
This has, I mean, everything I've done has been a dream, like knocking things off the list and just the validation and all the stuff that has happened has really made me feel very proud of what I'm building with my own hands, whether it's always profitable or not. It's something that is important to me and it keeps evolving, and that is truly exciting. And I love that my kids are seeing that you don't have to fit into a box for a career anymore. Like when we all were in school, what were you going to be? A teacher, a lawyer, a doctor? Like, you know what I mean? There were like 5 jobs that you picked from. There weren't all these alternative things.
Right.
Now there's the gig economy and there's side hustles and there's all these things where I think it's actually really smart, because this generation will be able to diversify their income.
Absolutely.
And not, you know, freak out if they lose something. And I think that's huge. Like I remember being in public relations for 20 years of my life, and you lose a client with a $20,000 retainer and you're like, oh my God, am I getting fired? That is a horrible way to live.
Yeah.
So I think that my kids watching me do it also fueled a lot of the stuff that I did, because I want them to be proud of me.
Yeah.
And I think with the book, it was such a long road to get there. All the iterations of proposals and everything that I submitted was built on a lot of the stuff I've talked about, domestic violence, all those things. It wasn't unique enough. You know, it wasn't. There's just, I never got bad feedback on my writing. Everyone was like, we love her voice. We just don't have a place for this, or this is too common, or we're not doing memoirs right now. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? Because it's not me they don't like. It's I don't have anything
You're not gonna make
dramatic enough in my life, right? And I will never forget, I had a call with my agent, and I hadn't told her yet. And it was a very, like, just a regular check-in call to talk about next steps of whatever we were working on at that moment. And I have a very dark sense of humor. And one of my strongest coping skills is coping with humor.
Okay.
So whether it was me going through a miscarriage or going through divorce or breakups or whatever it is, I have always leaned to humor, and it has never failed me. It's not denial. It is how I get through it. Self-deprecating humor. I don't like people who make fun of other people. Make fun of yourself. Don't make fun of other people. That's like a cheap way of humor. I had a call with her, and we were on a Zoom, and I said, I have really exciting news for you. She's like, oh my God, I can't wait to hear. And I'm like, this is it. I'm like, this is it. And we're going to sell a book. And she's like, oh my God, what? And I just looked at her with a big smile, and I go, I have breast cancer. And she looked at me in shock. And then she knows me well enough to know my sense of humor. And she was like, what? And like, clearly upset. But I was like, listen, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
I've got this. Like, I'm going to be fine. But don't you think that I can write a book with this same tone? Like, there's so many beautiful breast cancer books out there, and they all have their place. But there's really not a lot. There's a few. There's not a lot that take that edgy, like, I am going to say very inappropriate things. Like, I have a chapter called, would you like to keep your nipples?
Right.
When they ask you, like, you know what I mean? So like, I'm digging deep into the whole experience. I started a journal that day, and I said to her, I'm going to write everything down, inconsequential or not, because I don't know what this is going to look like. And I'll just take it from there. And that was the best thing I ever did, because when it was time, and it was time to put together a proposal, I had an arsenal of stuff that I forgot about, like stupid moments. And so, like, side note, I would say to anyone who's going through a life change, whether it's good or bad, write everything down, because you never know what you can do with that. It could be a social media post. It could be a letter to a loved one. It could be a book. But that is what got my book. And so that's another dark joke. I'll say, yeah, it only took breast cancer, you know? And I'm really proud of it, because I know I'm going to have people who don't like it, because some people get very sensitive with joking about things that are serious, but I'm not making fun of your cancer. I'm making
Right.
fun of mine. And I'm allowed to do that because
Yeah.
it was my journey and I'm allowed to handle it however I want. And if you want to curl up and cry, you have every right to do that.
Absolutely.
That's not who I am.
Right.
So I couldn't. One is not better or worse than the other. They are just different paths. And so I feel like it's like the ultimate win for me because not only do I get the book, which is just in general what I always wanted, I get to write something that is so 100% my personality that I'm having fun doing it. It's stressful and it's a lot, but you know, I'm very excited about it. So it's called
Right.
Breast Case Scenario.
Oh my God, I love that.
And it will be out April of 2027.
I can't wait to buy it and read it.
Yeah.
But that's like so full circle.
So full
'Cause if you
circle.
think about that, and we could just wrap up with this because I think it's amazing that like we are exactly where we're supposed to be, even when shit is bad, right? That we just have to survive those moments. But you started in this space where you were in a relationship, domestic violence, you couldn't speak your mind, you weren't yourself, you were censoring yourself, to now, not only what you do on Instagram and your podcast, but the book is your uncensored self.
Totally. It's like the best thing I could have ever asked for. And yes, it would have been nice to have it without breast cancer.
Yeah.
But you know, you have to look
But you
at,
wouldn't have had it without
I wouldn't
breast
have had it.
cancer.
And you have to look at, I'm a big believer that when something is bad in your life, you got to find the bright spots, right? When my grandmother passed away, who lived to be 99, had a beautiful life and has,
Wow.
14 great grandchildren. I mean,
That's amazing.
yeah, the best woman you will have ever known in your life. And when she passed away, obviously it was very sad, but my family is very much like me. We all have that very sick sense of humor. And my mom called me from the funeral home when she was making arrangements. She's like, oh my God, she needs a bra. And I was like, what do you mean she needs a bra? And she's like, are you on your way here? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I need you to get her a bra. They said she needs a bra. And I'm like, are you serious? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go to Marshall's or TJ Maxx. And I'm sitting there thinking, does anyone in here who's going through the racks as I am know that I am buying a bra for my dead grandmother for her coffin that she's going to be buried with? Like, does anyone know that? And then I'm calling my mom. I'm like, they only have push-up bras. Like, what? She's like, get it. She'd love it. Her tits up to the sky and her yes, get it. So like,
Oh my God.
that is who I am. That is
Right.
who I am. And like, yes, we sobbed and cried and it's horrible. And I still miss her every day. And it's been
Right.
years, but like those moments are what get you through the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And that is how I got through breast cancer and didn't fall apart. Yes, I had moments when I was terrified and scared and before I knew the prognosis and what my nodes looked like. Oh my God, am I going to get sick? And are my kids going to see me sick? Am I going to have to go through chemo? Like you think about
Yeah,
all of those
of
things and
course.
you don't know what it's going to look like. But if you let yourself fall victim to that cycle,
Yeah.
there's no coming back from it.
Yeah.
So I went in head first. I joked with every one of my doctors and my goal was like, I'm going to win them over.
Right.
Maybe they don't like it, but I'm going to win them over. And I did.
And they probably enjoyed that because that was probably a breath of fresh air for them.
I hope so. You know, I just
think so.
I hope that that's what the book is for people. I hope that even if people who would not handle it the way that I handled it, whether you're a cancer caregiver, which is also a very tough spot,
100%.
you know? I mean, you're not the one with cancer, so don't get crazy because we win that race. But like, I do understand the mental toll. I watched my husband do it and he was
Right.
exhausted and tired and never complained and never said anything. And because I would have been like, you know, it's not breast cancer. But I think that I hope that that's what it provides for other people is that breath of fresh air where you can go through something really shitty that is life-changing and potentially fatal,
Yeah.
right? But you can laugh about it.
Right.
It's okay to laugh.
Yeah.
You know, what are the chemo police going to come and get me because I didn't
Right.
need chemo?
Exactly.
Like, I'm going to always not be in denial and not even make the best of it. I'm going to find the things that bring me laughter and joy so that I can get through it.
Yeah. Well, I love that. That would have been the question I kind of would have just asked. Like, what would you recommend? What would be your last word to listeners? But I think you just like nailed that.
So, well, I want to say this too because I'm curious. You might know what I'm talking about because I still can't. My therapist, when I first started with her, and I was a mess, sobbing about all the wrongs in my life, and she was like, "All right, let's just talk about this." And she took out a piece of paper, and she wrote down. She's like, tell me the bad stuff. I tell her the bad stuff. She goes, all right, tell me the good stuff. I tell her the good stuff. She did some sorcery, some therapy sorcery with some equation. And she's like, all right, so 11% of your life sucks right now.
Right.
11%. And I was like, okay. And she's like, you have 85%. Is that right? Is that math
89.
right? 89.
Well,
That's why I'm a
but it's
writer.
okay.
89% of your life is great.
Yeah.
focus on that. Don't let the 11% drag you down.
So true.
And that changed my mindset so much. And I still go down sometimes where I'm like, oh, this sucks. I hate this. I hate this. And I'm like, stop it. You have a beautiful life. You have beautiful children. You have an amazing husband. You have an incredible family. You have so much to be thankful for. Fuck that.
Right.
Don't even let that take up space in your mind. And it's hard to train yourself to do that. And it's ongoing, but I strongly believe that.
Yeah. And to end with, you're allowed to feel that frustration and disappointment and sad and like anger, and also choose to not stay in that 11%.
Right.
So just because you can be frustrated doesn't mean that you're not appreciative of the 89% of good.
Well, isn't that resilience? Isn't that
100%.
So
it's how you choose to shift your mind, right? You could choose to stay in bed like some people may and say my 11% sucks. The rest of my 89 is not even valuable.
yeah. And listen, everyone goes through it.
100%.
Yeah.
Or you could say, you know what? Yeah, it sucks and I'm going to survive and it is what it is.
Yep. And at least I don't have cancer.
Exactly.
That's my line.
I love that. Well, Rachel, thank you so much. I know I feel like we're going to be friends after this.
Forever.
Like seriously.
Forever.
Like we just met and it's like this like you're so easy to talk to.
Same.
And so where can people find you? Because
So
you are.
I'm most active and I share all of my stuff, whether it's like speaking engagements, book stuff, just life on Instagram.
Okay.
At Wine and Cheez-Its, and it's wine with an H.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, I'm all over social media, but that is my biggest
That's
and
your
most
big-
active
okay.
platform.
All right. And it is definitely a fun platform to be on because you have like,
Thank
you're
you.
just so authentic.
Thank
That's
you.
really the
That
takeaway.
is the biggest
honestly.
compliment. That is I always tell people, call me authentic, call me funny before you even call me pretty. Call me authentic and funny. That to me is something that is not learned,
No, 100%.
you know? So
Well, thank
you for that.
No, thank you for being here. And to all of you guys, thanks for joining and tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, follow, share, all that good stuff. And catch you next time.